Los Angeles continues to burn. The official death toll stands at 24, with 23 people still missing. Tuesday is a crucial day for firefighters, with winds of 80 kilometers an hour forecast. While LA burns, the fires look set to become the costliest natural disaster in US history, with losses of over $150 billion. Hello, I'm Paul Hawkins, coming to you live from London. Welcome to TRT World's extended coverage of the LA wildfires. The fires sweeping across LA County for the past week have burned more than 162 square kilometres, an area as large as Washington, D.C., and have claimed the lives of at least 24 people. 4 fires are still active. Palisades Fire, which has affected the Pacific, Palisades and Malibu areas, is the largest, covering 94 square kilometres. It's 14% contained, according to the authorities. While the second largest is the Eaton Fire in Altadena. It's burnt through 57 square kilometres. A third of it has been contained. The third one is the Hearst Fire in the northern part of the city. It's burned through 3 square kilometres, but officials say it is mostly contained. The newest one is the Auto Fire, which began overnight east of LA. It's burned through 56 acres and has not been contained at all. Well, the US National Weather Service has issued a so-called red flag warning for Tuesday, with winds of 88 to 112 kilometres per hour, which obviously spreads the fire, but also stops water drops because it's simply too windy to fly. Evacuation orders have been issued for 92,000 residents, and another 90,000 have been told to be ready to evacuate at short notice. Well, Los Angeles wildfires might end up being the most expensive natural disaster in US history, with some estimates saying that it could cost upwards of $150 billion. Many people who've lost their homes and belongings were dropped by fire insurers just months before. TRT World's Martin Markovitz has more.
The Los Angeles fires have ravaged the U.S.'s second biggest city. Now, many of the victims are worried they might have lost everything. Susana Corda is one of thousands of people whose fire insurance got canceled just months before the fires.
Left everything behind. We have no insurance. We stand to lose everything if the winds blow the fire back into Topanga. So we're just praying and hoping that doesn't happen. But we're very scared.
The fires are expected to be among the costliest natural disasters in U.S. history. There is fear that thousands might not be able to rebuild their lives once the fires are extinguished. The California Insurance Commissioner has banned insurance companies from canceling or not renewing policies for homeowners affected by the fire for 1 year. But that doesn't cover people who got their policies canceled before the fire.
So we need new protections in place to prevent insurance companies from abandoning consumers who do the right thing and harden their homes, meet state wildfire guidelines for brush clearance and home protection.
California leaders have also been under attack for their handling of the crisis. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has been criticized for cutting $17 million from the city's firefighting budget. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump blamed the state's governor, Gavin Newsom, over the lack of water in some fire hydrants as firefighters attempted to contain the massive blaze in Pacific Palisades.
A true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water.
Governor Newsom has ordered an investigation into the state's water supply and has also signed an executive order to suspend permitting and review requirements for residents planning to rebuild. But some believe that the climate crisis has made rebuilding in wilderness zones inside large metropolitan areas dangerous.
So climate change really changes the odds, the probability of these events to occur. So while we know that heat waves and droughts and heavy rainfall have happened in the past for hundreds of years, today they come more frequent. That's really to do with the warming climate, the warming atmosphere that just intensified.
Governor Gavin Newsom has invited President-elect Trump to tour the devastation with him. So far, the president-elect has not accepted the invitation. Martin Markovitz, TRT World, Los Angeles, California.
Well, let's go live to LA and speak to Martin. He joins us now from a shelter in Westwood. That's in the west side region of the city. Martin, what's happening where you are?
Yeah, I'm just a few kilometers away from the biggest blaze, the Pacific Palisades Fire, and we've been talking to people, evacuees here, who were forced to leave from their homes. I'm actually going to talk right now to Bill Davids. He's right next to me. Hello, hi. Bill. How are you? Just want to know if you could tell me what happened when you first got the evacuation warning. How did you feel?
Well, obviously, you're terrified when you first get the evacuation notice. We got it around 9:30 p.m. on last Tuesday, and we were rushed out of our apartments. We had police on, bullhorns on the street where I lived. And we basically were hustled out of the apartment building where I live. We were immediately referred to the community center that we're standing in front of for evacuation purposes and for shelter purposes. And I have been here ever since last Tuesday. I know that we're talking about European time, but on American time, we've gone from America's Tuesday last week to today's Tuesday. Essentially, we didn't take our belongings. We thought perhaps it would be 1 or 2 days. The fire originated in the Palisades, which was about 2.5 miles away from where we live. And we just didn't anticipate that the fire would come our way, and it did not come our way.
What are you going to do now? How long do you think you're going to be here? What's next?
The apartment building that we live in is still under mandatory evacuation, primarily because of smoke. We're told that the smoke is toxic. We have no idea when we're going to return. We understand that the smoke has to be remediated first. The building has to be cleared. We haven't been back to our apartment, so we have no idea what the state is, and everything right now is undetermined insofar as our return to the apartment building. The apartment building itself did not sustain any fire damage. It's primarily ash and smoke that drifted from the Palisades Fire.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Bill. I talked to officials here. They said that they expect the number of people in the shelter to grow, especially if the fires continue to grow because of the winds. Back to you.
All right, many thanks, Martin. That's Martin Markovitz at a shelter in Westwood that's in the west side region of LA. Well, the US National Weather Service has given an update on the strongest winds so far after placing a so-called red flag warning for high winds and fire risk. So these are winds of 115 kilometres per hour. They've hit the east of Santa Clarita, an area under the particularly dangerous situation warning. The particularly dangerous situation warning is issued when low humidity, high winds and very dry vegetation come together. It's kind of like a perfect storm, really, meaning there's a risk of large and deadly wildfires. Well, to break this all down for us, we can speak now to a meteorologist, Matthew Kuchi. Matthew, good to see you. I guess this was a situation that really, given everything we've heard from scientists like yourself, was always on the cards.
Yeah, most definitely. I have to say the weather in the past 3 years has really been building towards a high-end fire event. About 80% of the rain that comes down every year in the Los Angeles area happens between December and March. So the wet season is a rather compact wet season. And 2 winters ago, we saw twice as much rain as normal. Last winter, we saw twice as much rain as normal. So all that rain and all the extra rain helped all the vegetation to grow out. So you had a lot more plant life. And then suddenly it went dry and we just never got any rain. In the past 8 months, we've seen basically no rain at all, only a few raindrops. So all the extra plant life dried out and died, and so the landscape was rich with vegetation that was ready to burn. The entire landscape was basically a tinderbox. All that dry vegetation was like fuel for a fire, and especially considering we haven't had any rain lately, when the Santa Ana winds come in with all this fuel, it's a classic recipe for high-end fire danger.
All right, many thanks, Matthew. That's a meteorologist, Matthew Kuchi, with his take on the science behind the situation. The high winds forecast mean that LA firefighters are facing a crucial day. In anticipation of the winds, more than 8,500 firefighters attacked the 2 biggest existing wildfires from the air and on the ground, aiming to prevent them from spreading overnight. Andy Rosegen joins us from a fire control centre in Pasadena, which is northeast of downtown LA. What's happening where you are, Andy?
Well, actually, I should say, Paul, we just moved from that location. And yes, that's firefighting camps are there at the scene of the Rose Bowl, the most famous football stadium in the country, and now host to all of these firefighters who are camping out there, over 3,000 of them, and they're all in various camps, and they are exhausted. They work 24 hours on the shift and 24 hours off, and they tell us they've never seen anything like this because they have to kind of toggle back and forth between sometimes urban firefighting and firefighting in the foothills back here at a moment's notice. So it has been tough on them, but here's another big part of the story, a huge part of the story where we are. You see the blockade back there, the police, the National Guard, looks like a militarized zone. If you're one of those folks whose homes were just destroyed back there, this is the community of Altadena, you want to get in. People just show up here at this corner randomly during the day saying, can we get in? And every day they just get turned away. And that's because, you know, the police and fire chief, they said again a couple hours ago, look, we understand the frustration, but this is an unsafe place to be back here. We've got cadaver dogs still searching for bodies. To some extent, it is still a crime scene investigation in case this might be a case of arson. But the people here tell us, and we'll bring you that those interviews as we go on throughout this day, they say, look, we know our house is rubble right now, but we just need closure. We just need to see it for ourselves. Can we just drive past? And the answer is still no. For those people whose homes are still miraculously standing back there, we talked to one gentleman just now who said, look, these are the only clothes I got on my back right now. I need to get my clothes, my stuff out of my house. The people whose homes are still standing, police say maybe you'll get back in the next few days. For people whose homes are still rubble back there, and it is awful, we just don't know. And that's the real frustration here. You've got some homeowners who are now filing lawsuits against a major power company in Southern California because here at Altadena, this was started by the Eaton Fire, they call it, and there's some video floating out there of a power station, some infrastructure, electrical infrastructure that caught on fire the night that these fires just blew up. The power company says, no, our power lines were off at that point. Who knows? There's an investigation underway to figure it out, but lawsuits are coming, and there's just a lot of frustration here, and that's why so many social services are trying to kick into gear to help these people as much as they can until they can check out their homes and start to rebuild their lives.
Yeah, clearly there is just no end in sight. No one knows when these fires are going to end, let alone when the investigation into them begins. Andy, thank you so much for that. That's our correspondent, Andy Rosegen, reporting for us from Pasadena. You've been watching TRT World's LA Wildfires special extended coverage. More on that on our website, trtworld.com, and on our social media channels. But for now, the news continues here on TRT.